Welcome to Got Grass, conversations with the legends and leaders of bluegrass. You've enjoyed live bluegrass at GuitartownCT concerts in Hamden, Connecticut since 2008. From Tony Rice, Rouse Stanley, and Doyle Lawson to Tim O'Brien, Sierra Hall, and Billy Strings. Now you can go behind the scenes as we chat with your favorite bluegrass stars. I'm your podcast host, Chris Worth. So my guest today on Got Grass is Ben Garnett. Welcome, Ben.
Thank you, Chris. Glad to be here.
This is our 60th episode of the podcast, which is amazing. And it's funny, I just got off the phone for an hour, 15 minutes with Darol Anger, who I know you know.
Yes.
So it's a double podcast day. It's pretty exciting for me.
That's awesome.
So first of all, I just wanted to mention that you and your trio are performing up here in Hamden on a week from tonight, which would be October the 14th, 7 p.m. It's a house concert. Tickets are $25, and you can get info and tickets at GuitartownCT.com. So anything else you want to say about that, about your trio right off the bat? I'll mention it again at the end, but I just
right. Yeah, this is going to be our first, well, technically not first. I'm doing an album release show this coming Friday, and then 2 gigs in East Tennessee, and then we'll fly to New York, and then this will be the first show of that kind of East Coast run of shows that we're doing. And the band is great. It's going to have Ben Plotnick on fiddle, Nate Sabat on bass, and we'll be doing a good bit of music from my new record that is going to be coming out on Friday, and some bluegrass standards, fiddle tunes, and things like that, and then maybe some other originals by the other guys in the band as well. So it'll be a fun collection of material. I'm very excited for it.
Cool. So you're a busy guy, I'm sure. So what does a day off look like for Ben Garnett? Do you ever take days off?
Well, yeah, in some ways I do, but lately it hasn't been much of that. Although, yeah, I'm always, especially right now, I'm putting out my new record on Friday and doing this album release tour, and I actually have a number of things lined up for my third record, which I need to start thinking about once all this stuff kind of falls into place. So it's kind of a constant, music's always on my mind. I'm listening to something and getting inspired by it, or I'm thinking about how the songs that are on the record, how we can play those live and different arrangements or different ways of doing that. And but even when when I try to get away from music, or if I'm just watching a movie or watching a TV series or just taking a walk and just trying to relax and get out of music, I might be cursed or something. It feels like it still kind of enters into the way I'm thinking about things, or how I'm watching the movie is informing maybe how I might write music later down the line, or I don't know. So it's kind of an artist's curse where you're just you're always inside.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because I ask everyone this question. So about half people say what you say. I take the day off. I take my guitar outside and sit in the yard. Or one guy said, I take it out on my fishing boat, but I bring my little mandolin on the fishing boat with me.
Right.
So, and the other half say, no, I just go fishing, or I go off. And, so there's a split between people who can maybe separate from music for a while, and then people who just, even when they're separate, they have to perhaps be with it.
I know. Yeah. Well, it's a profession, career, and it's a hobby. It's all the above, and I think in some ways that makes it beautiful, in that it can be in all these different parts of your life. And if you know how to relate to it in all these different parts of your life, I think it can be a really just joyous and uplifting thing. I know. I also have lots of friends where it can't be all parts of their life, just because of, I don't know, how they relate to music or how they think about it or something. They need that hard division between their professional life as a musician and their more just hobby life. So it depends on the person ultimately, I think.
I mean, that cracked me up to hear. Oh yeah, I go out on my fishing boat, but I bring my toy mandolin with
Yeah,
me.
exactly.
That was
You never
funny.
know when inspiration will strike. Gotta keep it
So,
ready.
were your parents musicians or musical? Like, did you start out at early music?
Yeah, I no, I started like around normal age. I started playing music around when I was 12. Actually, that's not totally true. I took piano lessons when I was much younger, when I was 5, not super seriously.
Mm-hmm.
But then, yeah, music kind of, I started taking guitar lessons when I was 12, and I also joined my school band playing tuba when I was 12 as well.
Mm.
And I feel like that was kind of the pivotal part of my life when it became obvious that music was something special to me and that I, cared a lot about it and I maybe had various proclivities towards it. But no, and neither of my parents are musicians. Although I would say in their way, they're kind of both musical people, even though they're not musicians. They definitely have a deep respect for music and they have really just interesting, keen insights about stuff. Like I love listening to music with them because they're hearing things that I couldn't ever possibly hear. But no, but they're college professors. They're like come from like an academic family, and so deep appreciators for music. My mom actually goes out to hear. She lives in Dallas or the Dallas Fort Worth area. Actually, both of them do in the Dallas Fort Worth area in Texas. And my mom is a regular goer of shows in the Dallas Fort Worth area, mostly for jazz, but other stuff too. And so she loves music, and both of them do.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
Is that where you grew up in Texas?
Yeah, I did. Yep, the Dallas
You
Fort
did.
Worth area. Yep.
Gotcha. It's funny you said you started playing music at a normal age because a lot of the bluegrass people I talked to, that was 5 years old.
I know.
They were out touring with a family band like Rhonda Vincent. I couldn't even play an instrument, but they made me sing. I was 5. It's like
Yeah,
that's normal,
exactly.
and then the different normals.
Yeah, well, I know. Yeah, what is normal? Yeah, I don't even know, but I don't know. I guess not super young, but not. I guess I also hear people talk about if they start at 18 or 19 that's late, or something. So yeah, no, there's no normal. It
Yeah.
hits you when it
It,
hits you, and then yeah,
yeah. It's funny. A lot of people. I'm speaking of my 3 children. Took
yeah.
music lessons early on, and at 12 they quit because that way they were done with it. They did it through like piano or violin, and then 12. My friends are more important, and that's the end of my
Right? Yeah,
my
totally.
career. So
Yep.
that's interesting. Do you have an early memory of music? Like, I mean,
Mm.
I remember the first song I heard on the radio was "Hey Baby" by Bruce Chanel with Delbert McClinton playing harmonica. I think
Oh wow.
I was probably like 9 or so, and I remember distinctly hearing this on the radio, and I said that was my first kind of memory of like pop or rock music.
Right.
Do you have a first memory, or is that hard to pin down?
No, no, no. I have a couple actually. Well, one, I haven't thought about this in a long time, but my mom had a tape of Peter and the Wolf. Do you know, it's like a musical story. Or it's
Oh
almost like,
yes.
yeah, okay.
Oh,
So
well, we're very familiar with. Yes, we grew
uh,
up with that one.
nice, nice. So I did, and we just, driving to school with Peter and the Wolf, driving back from school, Peter and the Wolf, going to car wash, Peter and the Wolf.
Mm.
Um, and now that I'm actually like thinking about that, I feel like there's a certain storytelling or kind of like almost cinematic sensibility to that thing that maybe and I remember like the instruments would like kind of sound like the animals, or like you'd get that kind of effect of where the music was actually larger than just playing notes. It was actually trying to like convey um, extra musical ideas, whether it be animal sounds or just
Yeah.
storytelling on a more abstract level, or maybe not so abstract.
I'd forgotten about that because I heard that
Yeah,
as a kid too, and the music of the wolf scared the crap out of me.
me too.
I mean, I
Yes.
remember being fearful listening to this wolf music. I mean, it was so. Oh my God, I'd forgotten about that. But Peter and the Wolf was a huge thing as when we were kids.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Me too. So that definitely drops in first, but then so when I was 12, when I first started playing guitar and tuba in band, my particularly when I started playing guitar, my dad informed me, or it told me that we actually his cousin, my cousin as well, is this really great guitar player who lived not too far away from us. He lived in a town called McKinney, Texas, which is maybe about an hour north of where I'm from. And our cousin's name is Andy Timmons, and he is just this enormously great rock guitar player, and just consummate musician. Like, he was Olivia Newton-John's musical director for a long time, and played in like hair metal bands in the 80s, but then kind of, I think in the maybe late 80s, 90s, I'm not sure if I'm getting that right, but he joined Steve Vai's label. Steve Vai's like kind of this world of like instrumental rock guitar. You have like Steve Vai, Joe Satriani, Eric Johnson. Anyway, Andy joined Steve Vai's label called Favored Nations and made a number of solo records under his own name. And in 2004, when I started playing guitar, kind of, this record called Resolution that Andy made had just come out. And it's a special record on a number of levels. I mean, one, it was like kind of the first like real guitar music I was exposed to. And not only that, it was like I felt related to it because it was my cousin making this music. And but it was also purely like an entirely a trio record, like no overdubs on the guitar track. So it was just like one guitar track, one bass track, and one drum track. So for like a rock guitar record, pretty minimal. Especially for like instrumental rock guitar, because it's not like three instruments and then vocal. It's like truly three instruments,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And the way that Andy was able to get such a huge sound and such a like compelling sense of songwriting and storytelling within these kind of instrumental pieces, it's like I feel like that really cemented like a very profound influence onto me, and so that was definitely like the first influential, just formative musical experience I think I had, particularly as a guitar player. Like that kind of like was my guiding light for a long time.
Right. So you have a project coming out called Kite's Keep very soon.
Yep.
I was wondering about the name of the album, because I'm sure it has a meaning that we might not know about, but I'm sure you do. What is the title about?
Kite's Keep. I forget where I even came up with that, but like, it's, I guess it's a very loose, I like titles to have a good bit of, not ambiguity, but abstraction to be able to be interpretive. I thought the words sounded nice together. They kind of had a musical, Kite's Keep had like a nice kind of musicality to it. But the idea was that it was to sort of loosely refer to a child's inner world and sort of and maybe like the music, the music on the record could be these kind of vignettes of imagination of a child's kind of like their keep, their world that they're imagining. And because it's often, particularly as a kid, things are so vivid and extraordinary, and you're kind of thinking about all kinds of things and putting things together. And so it's loosely referring to that, but I think it also could also just refer to any level of just imagination and just exploring that kind of dreamscape quality of music and life more generally.
It's also kind of a catchy alliteration kind of phrase too.
Totally.
Which I guess is kind of important, right? Have something that people might say and remember or think, wow, that's a cool name.
Yeah.
I was just, to change the subject, I was just watching this documentary about Wayne Shorter.
Oh, cool.
And he was talking about when they started the group Weather Report with Joe Zawinul and stuff. And he said, I want some kind of name, I don't know. And he was watching TV and he saw the Weather Channel guy and he said, something about weather. And Joe goes, how about weather forecast? And he goes, no. Weather Report. That's it, Weather Report. And it was as simple as that. It had really nothing. I don't think it had any like ulterior meaning. It just was like, Weather Report. What's going on? The Weather Report.
Exactly. Yeah. And it just sounds good. Yeah. I think most titles, whether they want to admit it or not, are effective for that reason. It's just like there's some kind of catchy, like I said, like almost musical quality to them, and especially for instrumental music that is already abstract. Why not just have a tile that plays into that?
How did you pick the musicians for Kite's Keep?
Yes, yes, yes. So really great musicians on this record that I'm very fortunate to know and collaborate with. We talked about Darol Anger before, and yeah, Darol played on this record, and Brittany Haas also played fiddle on this record. Ethan Jodziewicz played bass on most of this record. Paul Kowert played bass on, I believe, just one song on this album. Record, same thing. Chris Eldridge played some additional guitar on this record on two songs, and my good friend Matt Glassmeyer, who is just he plays piano on one song, but I feel like that only shows maybe 10% of who he is as a musician. He's like this crazy, amazing multi-instrumentalist, improviser, kind of like conceptual artist as well, like a very creative, very expansive person and musician. So, but anyway, that's the musicians on this record and how I chose them. I guess what I look for in collaborators are, generally speaking, like powerful interpreters. Especially as a composer, I think that is your biggest asset, is to find people you can collaborate with that can, create music where the music is greater than the sum of its parts, through their interpretive powers. And, I feel like you can't even begin to talk about, amazing interpretive fiddle without bringing up immediately like Darol Anger and then Brittany, of course, too. So, and then all those musicians, I mean, they bring so much to the music, and they have such powerful and singular voices on their instruments as well. And so having that exist within the compositions and things that I've kind of ahead of time have arranged, and then for them to enter into that is very exciting for me as a writer and player. So
I was talking to Darol about playing on this album because he loved it. He loved your playing and everybody else. I said, well, how did you learn the songs? He said, well, they were mostly written down. At least the basis were, and then you would throw ideas around about who does this when and all that kind of stuff. Is that kind of how this usually evolves?
Typically, yeah. It really depends on the song, though. Like, I think the songs with him, I came in with some sheet music, and we worked out, who would play what, and and then he would sort of offer up ideas about, maybe, what if the fiddle actually kind of added something here on this melody, or he would just bring kind of this inherent just fiddle, like things that are idiosyncratic to the fiddle that I just like wouldn't have in my musical brain as a guitar player. He was able to bring that perspective onto it. But then some of the songs come out of like no sheet music, where I just kind of show the musicians, here's how it goes, and then what do you think, and can we add stuff? And I feel like one's not better or worse. It comes out differently, and so it just depends on what the music is calling for. But yeah, that's just like one of the great things about Darol, is that he's so imaginative and so expansive as a musician and person, that he's just able to bring in all these different ideas and just perspectives that I would never have. So it was a real joy.
I think he loves playing with a lot of younger people that call him in, because he said, I'm not really focused right now on anything in music of my own stuff. I've done all this stuff. I've been playing for 60 years. So I think he loves when people like you call him up, and because that's like rejuvenates his interest and love for what he does, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. He's so prolific. It's just he's been an inspiration for a long time for me.
I was listening to some Guy Clark interviews to prepare for another interview with I think it was Sean Camp, and he made a comment. He said, when he writes a song, you have to leave holes in the right place so the listener can get inside the song.
Oh, wow.
And I thought that's an interesting way of looking at it. But I wonder if when you're writing or arranging a piece that you've composed, are you thinking about the listener, or are you thinking about the music?
That is a really fascinating question. Am I listening about the listener, or am I thinking about the music? Well, it'd be hard for me to actually sort of settle on a good definition of quote unquote the listener, I think. I can speak to my own experience as a listener of my own music, and I can speak to my own feelings and just the experiences that I have listening to my music as a listener. I can also talk to people who listen to my music and see what they think. But I just feel like that experience is so subjective and so I don't know. And it's kind of fragile in a way because it's very dependent on how you're listening to the music or where you're listening to the music and just the situation that the music's coming to you, and then just who you are as a person and how you listen to music at all in the first place. So, I guess I'm not. Yeah, that it doesn't interest me a ton to try to step inside the shoes of every possible person that could possibly be listening to my music in every given environment. That just seems like an impossible project.
Fair enough.
Where I think there are, with music and with all art, actually, there are things that are effective and there are things that work and there are things that I think come across stronger than other things that communicate and speak louder than other things. And I think you can be attuned to that level of whether it's composition or arranging or whatever performance, without stepping inside the shoes of everyone who might be listening to your thing. So I guess the answer is kind of both. I am aware of my own listening experience to my own music, but I'm also very aware of rendering the music, being a producer of my own music, playing my own music, and then also I guess while I'm playing, being receptive and also listening to what the other musicians are doing and how that's all feeding into the bigger vision. And but really interesting question. I have to think about that more.
When you think about it, what you just said, you're playing a piece with other people, so you're thinking of the piece, how it goes, your part in it, the other musicians, is it too fast, too slow? There's so many things that the human brain is capable of doing at the same time.
Right.
But basically, you're just there to play the music. I mean, the audience doesn't care about all the thinking and all; they just want to hear the music sound good. So it's a crazy thing, music, in that sense.
No, I know. It's or what's the saying? Talking about music is dancing about architecture.
I hadn't heard that. That's good.
Yeah. I've heard Bill Frisell talk about that a little bit, how he's almost hesitant to talk about music because he feels like the minute you start talking about it, just inherently the farther away you get from what the thing is, or what I don't know, where the bodies are buried, so to speak, with how music's working and what it's doing and how it comes to be in the first place.
That's funny because I've heard even recently locally some musicians who will play and they'll introduce a song with a whole 5-minute description of what the song is about, what it means.
Yeah.
And as a listener, you really don't care about that. You just want to hear the song and make your own judgment, right? You don't want them to analyze the song before they play, maybe afterwards, but before it's kind of like it kind of throws you like, what am I supposed to be listening for? And I always thought it was too much talk and not enough action.
Yeah, that's fascinating to me. I mean, I would definitely, I think, fall into your camp of thought about that, or just I think art, not always, but maybe just generally has the ability to be more powerful when there's less explaining happening and when it's just doing what it's doing. But that said, context is a huge part of music and art, and how, just the way something is presented to you is going to hugely affect the way that you take it in and experience it, you know.
Uh-huh.
And or like you know, a painting that's on the wall of a subway station is going to hit you very differently than a painting than say like the same painting that's in, you know, some very fine art gallery or something. You know, you could have the same work of art, but in two very different contexts, and it's going to feel different. And I think that's part of like, you know, there's a, I don't know, just like showing more, like maybe in contemporary art, like, you know, taking things from the streets or trash or whatever, and like putting it in a high art context. Like maybe like part of the point of that is to show how context is kind of a huge part of things. And so, yeah, you know, I don't know. It's an ever constant question for me of how much to contextualize or how much to explain, or should I set up this song in a certain way? Should I talk about it or should I not?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, you know, I feel like it's kind of dependent maybe on the song itself or just where you are and who you're playing for. I don't know.
Right. A lot of factors.
Yeah, a lot of factors.
I was I've had the opportunity to talk to some great people, and one of them was Larry Sparks, the great
cool.
bluegrass guy.
Totally.
So he said, when I'm soloing, I'm just trying to play the meaning of the lyrics.
Wow.
So I'm asking you, so when there are no lyrics, what are you trying to play the meaning of? I guess is a kind of a too philosophical a question, but I mean,
no, it's great.
Does the title of the song come into play, or is it just the moment, or like what inspires you in a song that maybe you wrote as you're going along?
Yeah, probably not anything too literal for me personally. Not to say that it can't be great if it is done that way. I mean, Larry Sparks is like one of the greatest guitar players of all time, in my opinion. Both rhythm and lead, just the way that he, does everything is just really moving. But no, for me personally, I guess I'm not really thinking. I think the magic, you know, or what I feel the proudest of especially when I listen to myself back, like on a tape or something, I feel like are the moments where I know I've kind of relinquished my agenda, or I've relinquished any sense of like, well, I got to do this and I got to do that and have to make this happen or whatever. Especially, you know, in an improvised music content, you know, if I'm playing an improvised solo or just taking a solo in general. You know, music, really, you know, it has this kind of transcendent quality. Or I guess you asked about instrumental music specifically. You know, to me, part of just the great beauties of instrumental music and just maybe abstract art in general is that it kind of transcends meaning. You know, because it doesn't have like a story behind it, or I mean, it can have a story behind it, but because it doesn't inherently have this like, you know, story, it can really mean anything. You know, it's infinite. You know, and I think part of that transcending of meaning is what makes it so powerful. And I guess I try to lean into that as much as I can.
Mm-hmm. You've thought about this a lot, I can tell.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it goes back to the Andy Timmons record that you were asking about, my first musical experience. I mean, I don't know, like instrumental music just somehow got in my brain, and it feels in my heart and my brain, and it just feels very natural to express myself as an instrumentalist and like an instrumental composer and improviser. So I think for all these reasons.
Yeah. I don't know who it was. It might have been someone like John Coltrane. When they asked him, you know, how do you play like that? He said, well, you practice 10,000 hours and then you go on stage and forget everything you learned.
Yeah. There you go.
Kind of. I mean, and I was similar to the Wayne Shorter thing I watched, which I don't know if you've seen. It's fascinating.
I need to. Yeah. What's it called again?
It's just a documentary. I forget what it's called. It was on, I think it was on, Amazon. It's one of those. Okay. Yeah. But anyway, it was produced by Brad Pitt, and you know, Wayne Shorter was a guy who, as you watch his career, he played less and less notes. I mean, he would do a concert toward the end. He would just sit there with these young musicians and look at them like, "Show me something," and he would play a little something. Then he would look over at the piano player. You know, what you got? It was so interesting that he kind of maybe played everything and now he was just more listening and kind of adding little things, sparse, like he, played 3 notes in 4 minutes. It's like, whoa. That's
Yeah,
pretty cool. If you haven't seen it, I just
I
happened
really
to
want
see it. It
to.
was fascinating, his whole
Amazing.
philosophy of playing and stuff. But
Oh
can we
man.
talk a little bit about bluegrass? Just
Sure.
because
Let's do it.
I think a lot of people know you through your role as a guitar player with Missy Raines.
Yep.
That's certainly how I met you. And
Yep.
um, how did you meet Missy and get involved in her band? Because you're obviously have a lot of different interests musically.
Yep.
On bluegrass being one of them, but you obviously like a lot of different kinds of music and have played it. So, how
Right.
did you end up being a bluegrass guitar player from Missy Raines?
Right. Well, so I moved to Nashville in 2017 and actually met Missy about a week after I moved, and just through some like crazy like friend connection. Actually, yeah, I don't get into that. It was a mutual friend actually through my mom. Like she worked with somebody, um, this other songwriter in Nashville, and then she connected me to Missy. And but I was already sort of in. Well, yeah, I was already sort of in the door in a way because I had just gone to this music camp in Savannah, Georgia, called the Acoustic Music Seminar, run by Mike Marshall. And I, like studied with Mike, and Brian Sutton was there that year. Julian Lodge was there. Aoife O'Donovan. He was new bluegrass adjacent. But there were like some really, just amazing bluegrass teachers there as well. So I was already getting into this world, but then when I moved to Nashville and met Missy, I feel like that really cemented my entry into the bluegrass community.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, bluegrass is just acoustic music and acoustic guitar, and the guitar in a 5-piece band or just any string band. Um, yeah, I mean it's just an endless well of inspiration to me, and yeah, and then I got very close to with Chris Eldridge, who produced my first record, and he and I have shared a lot of just love for someone like Tony Rice and a lot of just the bluegrass greats. So yeah, so even though I definitely did not grow up in this world and grow up going to fiddle camps and bluegrass festivals for the last almost 8-9 years, the bluegrass community has been a huge part of my life and career, and just my understanding for music and how to play with other musicians, and just the overall template for which I work out of is very much informed by the history
Mm-hmm.
of this music. And yeah, I'm just grateful. It's been
Yeah,
such a joy.
yeah. I've always seen great kind of parallels between jazz and bluegrass.
Yeah.
My two heroes really were Tony and Oscar Peterson. I mean, those are the people that I
Wow.
grew up listening to and
Cool.
loving. And I mean, I think in some ways, and you probably agree that there's similarities in terms of there's a structure, but then you go out of it and then you
Right.
come back to it.
Right. Yeah.
Is that, would you describe your music that way too? Like it starts with a
Mm.
structure, or is it sometimes go out and not come back to it, or is it depend on on the music? Is that, I'm just
Yeah.
curious.
Yeah.
I've heard some
Right.
of it, but I haven't heard all of it. So,
Yeah. Gotcha. That's a fascinating question. I mean, to me, again, it's just what do you want to say and what do you want to do, and yeah, I think that's a very what you just described. Do you improvise within a structure, or do you kind of expand on that structure, or do you step outside of the structure entirely? Do you return to where you started? Do you not return to where you started? I mean, I feel like these are like kind of the artistic questions that improvising musicians have been asking themselves kind of since the beginning of improvisation, probably. Um, and some, and these questions are also nothing new, just relatively speaking, with the history of improvised music, especially guys like Wayne Shorter or Ornette Coleman or Thelonious Monk, or just any of the greats, like they're constantly kind of challenging, can a song maybe just start with something very basic and then just have that be a springboard for just pure improvised music, and then you just you don't ever return to it, or can like Ornette Coleman had the whole harmonic concept where you know have the foundation of the harmony maybe, and then you can superimpose like your own chord progression maybe on top of the chords with your own sense of melody and motivic stuff. So so for me, you know, they're not as much. I don't have as much of a core philosophy about it, but more just a constant asking questions of, you know, well, what if we did, you know, what if we tried that on this composition, or what if we, like, for this section, what if we took sort of this like one idea and kept that constant, but then improvised within that idea and just lived in that world for a little bit. And so, yeah, so you know, the relationship between improvisation and composition is just, it's endless, and it's just something that means a lot to me and is very deeply fascinating for me to explore as a musician and composer.
So, would you ever go on stage with your group and just do a totally improvised piece with no key, no tempo, no nothing, and just go with it for 5 or 10 minutes?
Yeah, I mean, I've done it before. Actually, this guy Matt Glassmeyer, who I was telling you, who played piano on my album, he and I actually have a duo project where we play completely improvised music. And no, like that's kind of like no parameters. I mean, I get the songs tend to maybe last, I don't know, 2 to 5 minutes, just kind of depends. But yeah, I mean, with my own trio, the trio that's going to be playing at Guitar Town, we haven't really done much of that. We have compositions, we have tunes that we play. There's certainly a lot of expansive improvising within those, and just whether it's an intro to a song or something in the middle of the song might end up being kind of more free, or losing the key center or losing the tempo, or you can experiment. But yeah, I mean, I love playing free. I love that as just a way. There's kind of no better way to get to know somebody musically, I feel like, than to play free with them, you know, because you really get exposed to not only your own tendencies and maybe how you, just where you are at that moment in time and how you hear music, but you're also getting exposed to someone else and how you relate to that in a very direct and intimate way. Much more so than if you like already have like an established framework of like, okay, we're playing a fiddle tune, or okay, we're playing a jazz standard. You're kind of relating to each other much differently than if you're just saying, let's just play. Yeah.
Right. I guess when you're just improvising totally, the first note you play says a lot about you. Probably,
yeah.
Right?
Exactly. Yeah, totally. Yeah.
It
doesn't have to be, but I feel like it actually doesn't have to be that permanent. It can just, it says a lot. It says a lot about you in that moment. You know, it doesn't say a lot about you, you know, in all time. Right. It just says,
not necessarily. No, you're right. Exactly right. Yeah. Yeah. Let's talk about the guitar a little bit, because so how many guitars do you own?
More than 3.
More than you need, probably.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, I'm not a huge collector compared to some of my friends, but let's see, probably 8 or 9 maybe total. That's including like some of the electric guitars that I have. But yeah, I'm not a big collector, but I have a few. Yeah.
You have a few. Yeah. When you sit down quietly in your own apartment room on the couch, what guitar do you pick out to just play with, or does it depend on your mood?
Right. Generally, so I have this Husson Dalton that I've had for a long time, the one that you've probably seen me play with Missy before.
Yes. Yeah.
And that's just kind of been my go-to guitar for a while now, last maybe 5, 6 years. And as far as guitars that I own, but then actually I'm borrowing a couple of guitars right now from Chris Eldridge. And he has an amazing D18, 1939 D18 that he's played on a number of Punch Brothers records and both the records with Julian Lage. That's a very special guitar to me. So anytime I can caretake that instrument, I might go for that one first.
Right. While you have it, right?
Yeah, while I'm caretaking for it, but that's a rare thing. So.
I remember one Tony Rice show we had, and it was intermission break, and Chris Eldridge was at the show, and he brought into the dressing room a guitar, and it might have been that one. It was an old 40s or 30s guitar that he had just bought.
Okay.
So he brought it up to Tony, and of course they were chatting about it, and they each took each other's guitars and playing. It was like sitting in a little bit of intimate history there. It was pretty fun.
That's
See that.
amazing.
I don't know if it was the
man.
same guitar. I don't know if it's a D28 or D18. I kind of think it was a D28, but anyway, I remember that very
Yeah,
clearly, that the two of them were like, oh, checking it out, looking down the
totally.
neck, how they do, how guitar players are,
Oh yeah.
every
Uh,
detail.
yeah. Especially those
Um,
guys, man. Oh
oh
man.
yeah,
Tony
right.
and Critter. Just
Yeah,
details. It's all about the details.
yeah. What about practicing? I've heard people, I think I was talking to David Greer. He said, oh, I don't practice. I just play.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no practicing in my life. I just play stuff. And
Right.
how do you look at practice? First of all, is it kind of a chore that you feel like you need to do every day, or is it just because you love to play that you just play and don't mind it? I know when you're 14 and you have to practice this, it's probably a chore, but when you're a professional musician, you love it, maybe it's just pleasure to practice or to play.
Yeah, these days, if I'm being totally honest, it's very oriented towards just the next gig that I have, or just whatever the next, like, yeah, collaboration or recording session, or it's very directed,
Hmm.
much more so than it used to be. I feel like in college I could just practice for 8 hours a day, but even that was sort of directed in a way because I was like getting ready for my lesson or jury or whatever performance I had. But it was a lot more I would practice because it was more like abstract. Like I want to get better at scales. I want to get better at chord tone, playing arpeggios and chord tone, so I want to like work on that. Whereas now it's not as much of that, but more, can I just play this song in, very comfortably and very naturally? And what that looks like for me is, I guess, sort of in the Greer world of where I kind of just, I'll play the same song for like 45 minutes. I'll set a metronome, and typically the metronome is it's not clicking every beat. It's only clicking maybe every 4 bars, and then once that feels good, I'll have click every 8 bars, so that I'm not trying to match with the metronome, but more just trying to generate time unto myself, which I feel like is a
Mm.
very crucial skill as like a like rhythm acoustic guitar player. I mean, just acoustic guitar player. Actually, just sorry, general musician skill. I would probably say, but definitely, being a guitar player in a string band, being like a really awesome like timekeeper is like a really good skill to have. So so I'll do that, and I'll probably start with playing like a song I know pretty well, like a fiddle tune or some other song, maybe a song of mine that I just feel like at the back of my hand. I'll like start there for 30 minutes and just kind of get warmed up and just, in the flow of things. And then when I need to work on something that's a little bit more unfamiliar, I'll get into that after I do that. But again, it's just sort of it's repetition, but it's not just mindless repetition. Like I'm not like really, I'm really honed in on like, I don't know, maybe like where I might be holding tension in my, arms and shoulders or legs or whatever. I'm trying to be constantly like inventive musically. I'm not just like repeating things verbatim. I'm trying to like be very engaged and very sort of just aware of my habits and things that are going on, and just like, oh, interesting. Okay, so like when I try to do that, like, this happens, or I haven't tried that before. Let me try to do something like that. Um, so yeah, and then often too, like if I'm, especially when I'm kind of just improvising for long periods of time, over the course of 30 minutes or whatever, I'll often find that there's something I can't really do, or that there's like a technique I can't really play, or I can't hear like what I'm hearing I can't play what I'm hearing in my head. And so that will be like kind of an impetus to work on whatever that thing is, whether it's like, oh, I need to work on my hammer-ons maybe for a little bit, or I need to work on my um, kind of downstroke, sweep picking, Tony Rice
Mhm.
style kind of thing, or
Mhm.
whatever. Just so yeah.
So that brings up an interesting question. So when you're playing, let's say a solo in a piece with a group,
Yeah.
are you thinking of of the notes as or before you play them? Like, are you conceiving your solo melodically in your head as you play it, trying to play, or are you just not?
Right. Yeah, two kind of like schools on that, right? Or I guess probably more than that, but there are schools on that. Like, especially when I grew up going to jazz school at the University of North Texas, there were a lot of teachers that said, you know, you should be able to like kind of hear what you play before you play it. Kind of a mentality of like, if you can't, or yeah, you hear something before you play it, or like if you play something and then you can't immediately sing it back, or if you can't like realize it just on your own, then it's probably not anything worth playing. Like it's if it's not coming from this like inner kind of id, like pure musical place, then it's probably not worth expressing on your instrument. Which is definitely one school of thought, and I feel like I do use that, or that's definitely a big part of how I improvise and like to play. Or I feel like you can really just say really powerful musical statements that way, very clear statements that way. But there's another school of thought where it's like maybe you're actually more just guided by how your hands feel on the instrument, or how like you're just like if you just move your hands on the guitar and sound comes out, what do you then do with that? And that's kind of more guided. Like actually, Julian Lage was the one that hit me to this kind of thinking, where it's like you actually just kind of like move your hands first, and you're kind of guided by this more kinesthetic experience of playing your instrument, and then you let your ear enter into that, and then you kind of let your ear maybe guide what happens after that. But it's not like I hear this, amazing line and then boom, I got it. I'm going to play it for you. It's kind of more, I don't know, symbiotic, or you're kind of relating to more parts of yourself more in the moment, whether it's just how your hands are moving that day, or, whatever, it's not this like pure, like I have this line manifest, in my head and boom, I'm going to manifest it.
Yeah. I guess so many things, as we were saying before, enter into what you play, how your hand feels, the time of day, who you're playing with, what you ate last night, are you tired, energized, all these things become part of how you play that phrase or a song or whatever, right? I mean, it's so many factors.
Totally.
A lot of which you probably can't control or aren't even aware of.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, yeah, the Julian thing just seems much more, I don't know. It's maybe in some ways just more true to the moment. Yeah, like you said, like there's all these factors at play, just how you're feeling or where you are and who you're playing with, and yeah, it's like kind of more accurate and more representative of what the moment actually is or something, if you're using both your hands and your mind and your ears and everything to kind of create a musical phrase or something like that.
And as I say, I love Oscar Peterson. And he's famous for humming along.
Right.
Now, is he humming what he's about to play, or is he just humming something in the key? I can't really tell, but he hums, he's humming constantly the whole thing he's playing. I don't know what it was, but I always thought it was interesting that he could hum these very complex swinging phrases and things. But what that meant, I don't know.
This is such a fascinating topic. I love thinking about this and talking about this. First of all, it's so personal to the player, I think, just first and foremost. That said, I've also had a lot of teachers who very much discouraged singing while playing, because it can almost, because to your question of like, are you singing what you're playing, or are you playing what you're singing? Those are two different things. And if you're singing at the same time of you playing, it can get kind of ambiguous, and it might kind of muddy that relationship, and it might end up turning into kind of this crutch that might end up actually kind of limiting you as an improviser or musician, So, I guess the point of all of it would be to try as many different approaches as you can, and that there's no one right answer. And again, it's very personal. It's very dependent on what works for you. 'Cause I also know people that like, they're not necessarily singing what they're playing while they're doing their thing, but they kind of use their vocalises or just the vocal part of their technique, I guess, while they're playing their instrument, like using their vocal as a way to work on phrasing, because they know, like, if I'm singing along to what I'm playing, I'm eventually going to have to breathe. And so when you take that breath, you stop. and then the other thing too is that generally speaking, a phrase is not felt until it ends. And so you kind of need that breath, or you need that space for your various phrases and music to have impact. So I don't know. Yeah, it totally depends on the music you're trying to make. Totally depends on who you are as a person. It's very, very personal, very idiosyncratic. There's no right answers. I'm a big believer of. But I think it's interesting, just like what different techniques give us and what they kind of lead to. There's just the results in the most neutral way, with the kind of like most neutral conception of it possible. Just like actions produce results. There's no good, bad, worse or better. It's all just like, what do you want, and what's going to make the most sense for the music.
Yeah, I think of someone like George Benson, who made a career out of singing his lines.
Yeah,
I mean, beautiful, amazing lines, but he could sing right along with them. Like, I mean, I guess that's kind of a unique gift to be able to do that. To play those fast, complicated lines and sing them at the same time.
Absolutely.
That seems crazy.
Yeah. Totally. Yeah. No, it's virtuosic. It's like, yeah.
Is there anybody in music history that you would have or would like to sit down and play with that you haven't had a chance to yet? Just sit down and play jam for a little while, or?
Ooh.
I know that's some. I've asked that. It's one of my stock questions, and sometimes I get a like instant answer, like, oh yes, this person. Other times, oh my God. Oh, I couldn't answer that. So maybe you don't have an answer. I don't know. It doesn't matter.
Oh, I have to think of it. So, you like any time period, anybody. Just anybody. Okay, anybody. Wow. I just could conjure them from the dead and play.
Yep.
Oh my God. Oh, I mean, I don't know. I don't. Who do I want to play with?
How about Django or someone like that?
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, totally. I mean, Django. I mean, Tony. I mean, or any of the classical, like, maybe not play with like Chopin or Debussy or Bach, but like just hear them like improvise, or just hear them like in a room just making stuff. Like that would be a dream. But
well, it's funny because I mean, as you well know, classical music was full of improvising way back when, and it's kind of disappeared. So it might have been cool to sit down with Chopin, just with your guitar, just play.
Yeah.
I mean, who knows what do you improvise?
That's mind-boggling.
What you would.
Yeah. No, totally. I mean, yeah. I mean, so that said, like, like playing. I mean, yeah, it'd be a dream to play with these people, but in a way, I'm maybe like more interested in just like their presence, or like what would have been like to like be in the presence of them. That's just kind of experience their craft in real time. But yeah, I don't know. I'll think about that. I'll let you know.
I'll ask you next Tuesday when you come here. Have you thought of somebody?
Cool. Yeah, great.
So you said you're working on another album, record, whatever you want to call it.
Mm-hmm.
This one's not really out yet, right? Kite's Keep. It's coming out soon.
Oh, yes.
Where's it out?
Kite's Keep is coming out this Friday, October 10th. Okay. And third record is it's underway, very in the beginning stages. So not much to say about it quite yet, but yeah.
Is there a name for it yet, or is it too early for that?
Yeah, too early for that.
Just ideas and things. Yeah.
Just ideas. Yeah.
Is there any question that I should have? This interview went by very fast. It's an hour and 10 minutes already, and I feel like we just got started.
That's crazy.
I try to keep them about an hour, a little over an hour, because Any question that you think I should have asked you that you would like to expound on?
I don't think so. I think you did a great job. Yeah, yeah. I got nothing. I don't think.
Okay, well, we covered a lot, and I can see,
Yeah.
you obviously, along with playing a lot of music, you think a lot about music and it's what it means and all that stuff, which is, I mean, a lot of people just play and don't think.
That's true. I mean, ultimately, I try to do that, but I think
Yeah.
just being
Yeah.
a composer or artist or just someone who's like, not just a player, I guess, but someone who's like making records and collaborating, and I don't know, it's like it's good to think about why you do things, maybe, or just
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I mean, and again, maybe it speaks to my parents were academics, so they talked a lot. They talked a lot about what they do and
Mm-hmm.
what they think and how they do things, and so I guess I'm sort of used to that demonstrative
Mm-hmm.
way of being an artist or a person in the
Yeah,
world.
I guess so much of our upbringing, kind of determines who we are as
Yeah,
musicians or people,
totally.
whether you know it or not. But yeah,
Yeah, big time.
yeah.
Big time.
I'm just going to remind our listeners, our millions of listeners, that Ben Garnett and his trio are playing October 14th, which is a week from today at 7 p.m. in Hamden, Connecticut. It's a house concert, and you can get information and tickets at GuitartownCT.com. There's still a few tickets left. Hope you come out and enjoy the music. I guess that's it. I appreciate you coming on, and your ideas and thoughts are provocative and interesting for me to think about too. So I appreciate that.
Right on. Thank you so much, Chris. This
All right,
is
thanks. We'll see you in a week.
sounds great.
Okay, take care, Ben.
Yeah, bye.
Bye.
I hope you enjoyed our podcast, and thanks for listening. Visit our website, GuitartownCT.com, for concert and podcast schedules, or just to send us a message. We'd love to hear from you.